After studying this module, you should be able to understand the main ideas of Abraham Maslow's humanistic psychology, know about the hierarchy of needs, learn about the different needs, understand the concept of instinctoid and homeostasis, analyze the basic assumption underlying need theory, and evaluate the need hierarchy theory. The two prominent theorists, Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, were the key figures in the development of humanistic perspective of psychology in the 1950s. This approach focuses on certain issues or domains which is significant to individuals, concentrating chiefly on personal and the unique experiences pertaining to them and also the unpredictable situations in the lives of an individual. Due to humanistic approach, many theorists have been enforced to question some of their elementary views. Unlike other theorists, humanistic theorists emphasized on the conscious experience of an individual, instead on the behavior of an individual. Accountability is of the person rather than on determinism, and one talks about one's experience instead of on the use of the experimental method. Humanistic approach to psychology also lays emphasis on the importance of an individual in attainment towards reaching one's full potential and growth. This approach of psychology has provided with an alternative standpoint which lay importance to inherent goodness of an individual and how human beings are innately good and one's tendencies towards health and growth. Thus, Maslow made an assumption that individuals have an intrinsic ability of showing love, affection, generosity, and constructive growth. Nevertheless, he agreed with Erikson that these innate instincts can be weak and one could certainly get swayed away by the more influential forces of learning and culture, the consequences of which could lead to self-defeating behavior of an individual, inhibit positive growth, result in showing hatred towards other individuals, and being destructive. Maslow has been called as the spiritual father of humanistic psychology. He was the one who came up with the third force in psychology, which was the humanistic approach, and later on he was the one who came up with the fourth force of psychology, which was referred to as the transpersonal psychology. Maslow criticized both psychoanalysis and radical behaviorism for their narrow view of human nature. In 1970, Maslow wrote that the study of unhealthy, crippled, and not developed fully individual can merely lead to a psychology which is in turn crippled. He emphasized that the study of human nature as a machine is characteristic of radical behavior and does not understand the person as a whole. Maslow presented his outlook as complement rather than an alternative to those other forces. Maslow assumed that one is mindful of his or her needs and motives during maximum part of their life, which would result in individual being psychologically healthy with a profound understanding of oneself and the domain around them. On one hand, Freud observed the negativity in an individual, and on the other, Maslow concentrated on understanding the positives of mankind. Maslow was of the belief that during the earlier period, psychology did not lay emphasis on individuals who were normal and fully functioning. Maslow, in the year 1962, originated the Humanistic Psychology American Association along with other prominent theorists such as Carl Rogers, Jordan Allport, George Kelly, and Rollo May. These theorists highlighted such principles as 1. One of the significant aspects which psychology should study is the experience of an individual. 2. They asserted that creativeness, self reliance, and choices one makes are the concern of the humanistic psychologist instead of the mechanistic reductionism view. Third, personally and socially, noteworthy problems should be studied and considered significant and not just objectivity. Fourth, the most important concern of psychology should be development, growth, and the self worth of an individual.
Abraham Maslow originated his psychological research by understanding the basic motivations of animals, but afterwards he moved on to studying about the higher motivations of human beings. Abraham Maslow, like Rogers, focused on the positive side of an individual. He was concerned in the qualities of person who get the most out of life. He was concerned about knowing what motivates them. Maslow denoted to his understanding of psychology as a holistic dynamic theory because it agreed to the fact that the whole person is continuously being motivated by one need or another, and that person has the potential to grow towards psychological health, that is self actualization. Maslow developed his own theory known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Initially, he proposed five innate needs and later added two more needs to it. The later versions of the theory, with additional motivational stages, are not so evidently attributable to Maslow. These extended models have instead been inferred by others from Maslow's work. Where Maslow's hierarchy of needs is shown with more than five levels, these models have been extended through interpretations of Maslow's work by other researchers. Instinctoid. Maslow speculated that humans have several inborn needs which he described as instinctoid, by which he meant that they have a hereditary component. These needs are the foundation for his theory of motivation on the hierarchy of needs. Nevertheless, these needs can be affected or overridden by learning, social expectations, and fear of disapproval. Besides, he believed that the needs are ranked in terms of an hierarchy. According to Maslow, lower order needs must be at least partially satisfied before higher needs become influential. Non humans can possess the lower, more basic needs also, but only humans may possess the higher needs. Maslow highlighted several characteristics of needs. The lower the need is in the hierarchy, the superior are its strong point and the higher needs are weaker needs. Maslow acknowledged that many different levels of motivation are likely to be going on in a human all at once. His focus in discussing the hierarchy was to identify the basic types of motivation and the order that they generally progress as lower needs are reasonably well met. The two lower order needs, physiological and safety needs, arise in infancy. Belongingness and esteem needs arise in teenage. Higher needs occur later in life. The need for self actualization does not arise until midlife. Failure to satisfy a higher need does not produce a crisis, whereas failure to satisfy a lower need leads to a crisis. Maslow called lower needs the deficiency needs or D needs. A satisfied need does not act as a motivator, and as one need is satisfied, another replaces it. A need does not have to be fulfilled fully before the next need in the hierarchy becomes more significant. Maslow's hierarchy of needs proposes that we must initially satisfy a lower order need, then only we can move on the next level. Starting with the first, which deals with the most obvious needs for survival itself, one can move forward. On the other hand, if the things that satisfy our lower order needs are swept away, we are no longer concerned about the maintenance of our higher order needs. Maslow's original hierarchy of needs model was developed between the years 1943 to 1954 and was widely published in Motivation and Personality in 1954. At this time, the hierarchy of needs models comprised five needs. This original version remains for most people the definitive hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory suggests that we have two quite different groups of needs: needs relating to survival and focusing on deficiencies, D motives; needs relating to psychological growth and focusing on becoming everything we are capable of becoming, being ourselves, that is, B motives. Explanation of the term hierarchy. Maslow used the word hierarchy because, like a pyramid, the higher levels of needs depends on the lower level needs. However, pyramid figures are commonly used to visually represent Maslow's hierarchy of needs model. It may be more precise to think of the higher needs as fitting not firmly on top of the lower level of needs but integrated inside the previous level. This suggests a much more gradual integrated relationship between each of the different stages. It is worth mentioning that Maslow saw the hierarchy as a broad depiction of a person's general needs. He states that the levels are not fixed and that each need does not essentially need to be fulfilled 100% in order for one to move on to the next level. We can be struggling to fulfill our basic physical needs but still feel a need to pursue stability in our homes and receive love and esteem within our communities. For some, love needs may come after esteem needs, but both are necessary in different ways and degrees. Maslow's hierarchy of need theory. Biological and physiological needs. At the bottom are the simple, primitive needs which are related to survival. It includes air, food, water, sex, and sleep. In other words, it is the first level which consists of our physiological needs, our basic needs for survival. Without food, water, sleep, and oxygen, nothing else in life matters. If one of these needs is not accomplished, it will dominate the individual's life. Maslow assumed that most humans achieve these needs easily. Once these needs are met, we can move to the next level. On the other hand, Maslow emphasized that an individual can experience intermittent times of hunger or thirst and still can move on to higher levels, but the individual's life cannot be controlled by just one need. Safety needs. Safety needs occurs when physiological needs are achieved. At this level, one looks out for safety through other individuals and try to look for a world that will safeguard and keep one free from harm. Protection from elements, security, order, law, limits, stability, etc. These are the needs for structure, order, security, and predictability. Reducing doubt is the foremost objective at this stage. In the present times, it relates in the form of our desires to have a home in a safe neighborhood, job security, and a nest egg, a decent retirement plan, and a bit of insurance, and so on. Healthy and privileged adult in our culture are generally contented in his safety needs. The peaceful, efficiently running, steady, worldly society usually makes its members feel safe enough from wild animals, extremes of temperature, criminal assault, murder, chaos, and so on. Consequently, in a real sense, he no longer has any safety needs as active motivators. Just as a satisfied man no longer feels hungry, a safe man no longer feels threatened. Individuals are free from danger, fear, and chaos when the safety needs are sufficiently met. Belongingness and love needs. Maslow's third level, the need for belonging and love, is also known as the affiliation need, which is the next level after the physiological and safety needs are reached. This need focuses on our desires to be liked, to fit in, and to feel like we have a place of our own in the work group, family, relationship, etc. This level includes the need for the friends, family, identification with the group, and intimate relationship. In our day to day life, we display these needs in our longings to marry, have a family, be a part of a community, a member of a church, a part of a gang or a club. It is also a part of what we look for in a career. Maslow felt that a person may experience feelings of loneliness and emptiness if these needs are not satisfied. It is assumed that the remarkable and swift increase in joining tea groups and other personal growth groups and intentional communities may in part be motivated by this unsatisfied hunger for contact, for intimacy, for belongingness, and by the need to overcome the widespread feeling of alienation, aloneness, strangeness, and loneliness, which has been worsened by our mobility, by the breakdown of traditional grouping, the scattering of families, the generation gap, the steady urbanization, and lack of face to face interactions, and which has resulted in shallow friendship through networking sites available today. Society which is unable to fulfill this need is the most affected in cases of maladjustment and more severe pathology. A sense of belonging can be felt when an individual becomes more focused on the desire to build relationship with others. This includes the desire for a romantic partner, to have close friends, and maybe to get married and have children. Esteem need. The fourth level is known as the esteem needs, and it occurs once physiological safety and belongingness needs are obtained. This need involves self respect, respect from others, and feeling that we have made accomplishments in our life. Achievement, mastery, independence, status, dominance, prestige, responsibility, etc. are some of its characteristics. In this phase, appreciation must come from earned respect and not from fame or social status. Acceptance and self esteem initiate from engaging in actions that are considered as being socially productive. An individual may possess feeling of inferiority if the esteem needs are not extended. Maslow sensed that Adler was in fact pointing at something vital when he suggested that these were at the roots of many, if not most, of our psychological problems. In today's time, majority of us have what we need in respect to our physiological and safety needs. But what we often look for is a little respect that often seems so very hard to find. Gratification of the self-esteem need results in feelings of self-confidence, worth, strength, capability and adequacy of being valuable and required in the world. But frustrating of these needs leads to feelings of inferiority, of weakness, and of helplessness. These feelings in turn give rise to either basic discouragement or else compensatory or neurotic trends. Self actualization needs. If the previous needs are adequately met, a person now has the prospect to become self actualized. Self actualization depends on the maximum realization and fulfillment of our potential, talent, and abilities. It includes realizing personal potential, self fulfillment, personal growth, and peak experiences. Nevertheless, self actualization is an exceptional accomplishment since it is so seldom take place. A person who reaches this stage strives for growth and self improvement. These are needs that do not involve balance or homeostasis. Once evolved, they endure to be felt. In fact, they are probable to become stronger as we feed them. They involve the continuous desire to fulfill potentials, to be all that we can be. They are a matter of becoming the fullest, hence the term self actualization. The first four levels are known as deficit needs or D needs. This implies that if one does not have enough of one of these four needs, one will strive to achieve them. But when you do get them, then you feel content. These needs alone are not motivating. Maslow wrote that there are certain conditions that must be fulfilled in order for the basic needs to be satisfied. For example, freedom of speech, freedom to express oneself, and freedom to seek new information are a few of the preconditions. Any blockages of these freedoms could inhibit the satisfaction of the basic needs. He stated that the lower needs, such as the need for food, safety, love, and esteem, are needs that an individual cannot do without. A deficiency in any of these inhibits with one's psychological health, and so one might react in a defensive manner or at times irrationally from a place of weakness rather than strength. Therefore, consciously or unconsciously, one strives to achieve these needs. But it is vital to note that Maslow regarded these as needs and necessities. On the other hand, healthy people who have fulfilled these lower needs are able to act based on the desire to grow rather than being motivated by deficiencies. In 1970s, hierarchy of needs model was adapted and two more needs were added in it between esteem and self-actualization needs, which were cognitive and aesthetic needs. Cognitive needs is the one in which need to know and understand persist. Aesthetic needs, the need for aesthetic beauty, which is the emotional need of the artist. It includes a perception and search for beauty, balance, form, etc. Although Maslow referred to additional aspects of motivation, cognitive and aesthetic, he did not include them as levels or stages within his own expression of the hierarchy of needs. In 1990s, adapted hierarchy of needs included transcendence needs, which came at the top, and seventh need being the self-actualization, which would be discussed in detail in upcoming slides. Transcendence needs. At the top of the triangle, self transcendence is also sometimes referred to as spiritual needs, helping others to achieve self actualization. Self actualization was divided into self actualization, which is realizing one's own potential as above, transcendence, which is helping others to achieve their potential. Maslow asserted that we should study and nurture peak experiences as it helps us to achieve personal growth, integration, and fulfillment. Peak experiences are unifying and ego transcending, bringing a sense of purpose to the individual and a sense of integration. It is from a position of psychological well being that one is able to follow what Maslow supposed as the universal human tendency to strive for growth, self sufficiency, identity, and the excellence of self actualization. Concept of homeostasis. Maslow also discusses about the first four needs in terms of homeostasis. He refers to homeostasis as the source by which one's heating system thermostat functions. When it gets too cold, it switches the heat on. When it gets too hot, it switches the heat off. According to him, similarly, our body, when it lacks a certain substance, cultivates a hunger for it. When it gets educate of it, then the hunger stops. Maslow basically spread out the homeostatic belief to other needs, such as safety, belonging, and esteem, which we don't generally think of in these terms. Maslow perceives all these needs as fundamentally survival needs. Even love and esteem are needed for the maintenance of health. He believes that all of us possesses these needs put up together into us inherently like instincts. In fact, he calls them instinctoid, which has been discussed earlier in the module. Maslow supposed that during the progress of overall development, an individual moves through these levels a bit like stages. As newborns, our emphasis is on the physiological needs. Almost immediately, we initiate to be aware of that we need to be safe. After that, we yearn for attention and affection. A bit later, we look for self esteem, and these needs occur in the initial couple of years. When one is faced with stressful conditions or when survival is vulnerable, we can regress to a lower need level. For instance, when one's career falls apart, one might seek out a little attention. These things can occur on a society wide basis as well. When society abruptly struggles, people start insisting for a stronger leader to take over and make things right for them. When the bombs start falling, they look for safety. When the food stops coming into the store, their needs become even more basic. Evaluation of Maslow's hierarchy of need theory. Maslow's theory of motivation is prevalent all above the world and is applied to various fields and offers strategies to managers or managements for motivating employees. Yet Maslow's theory has many limitations, some of which are listed below. Maslow's theory is widely accepted, but there is little empirical evidence to support it. It is largely tentative and untested. His writings are more philosophical than scientific. Maslow's theory is oversimplified and is based on human needs only. There is lack of direct cause and effect relationship between need and behavior. Maslow's assumption of need hierarchy does not hold good in the present age, as each person has plenty of needs to be satisfied, which may not necessarily follow Maslow's need hierarchy. Thus, it can be concluded that according to Maslow, most theories of motivation are limited because they mainly deal with basic physiological needs such as hunger and thirst, or with the need to avoid anxiety. Such theories neglect many important needs relating to personal growth in Maslow's view. He addressed these issues in his theory based on a hierarchy of needs where physiological needs are at the lowest level of the hierarchy, followed upwards by need for safety, need for love, need for esteem, and finally need for self actualization. The needs at the bottom are deficiency needs, and the needs at the top are called growth needs.
Now let us summarize this module in point form. First one, Abraham Maslow started with studying the basic motivations of animals, but later on he moved on to understanding the higher motivations of an individual. Second, Maslow's theory accepts that individuals are continually motivated by one or more needs, which he referred to as holistic dynamic theory. Third, Maslow has been called as the spiritual father of humanistic psychology. Fourth, Maslow developed his own theory known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Initially, he proposed 5 innate needs and later added 2 more needs to it. Next, personally and socially noteworthy problems should be studied and considered significant and not just objectivity. Next, Maslow speculated that humans have several inborn needs which he described as instinctoid. Next, Maslow's need hierarchy theory suggests that one should initially fulfill lower order needs, then only we can move on to the next level. Beginning with the first need that deals with the most basic need for survival, then only one can advance. A need does not have to be fulfilled fully before the next need in the hierarchy becomes more significant. This theory suggests that we have two quite different groups of needs, which are 1. Needs relating to survival and focusing on deficiencies called demotives, and second, needs relating to psychological growth and focusing on becoming everything we are capable of becoming, being ourselves, called B motives. 5 needs which he postulated were biological, security and safety, belongingness, esteem, and self actualizing need. During the 1970s, hierarchy of needs model was adapted and two more needs were added in it between the need for self-esteem and self-actualization, which were the need for cognition and aesthetic needs. In 1990s, adapted hierarchy of needs included transcendence needs, which came at the top, and seventh need being the self actualization. Maslow's term self actualization was one of the key features of humanistic psychology. It refers to the belief that people are born with the need to attain their maximum potential. Homeostasis refers to that source by which one's system of heating thermostat functions. When it really becomes cool, it does switches the heat on. When it becomes very heated, it switches off the heat. Maslow's need hierarchy has been prevalent throughout the world and therefore applicable in various fields and offers strategies to managers or management for motivating their employees.